Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Full Funnel Life. We are climbing to almost 200 episodes, very close to the
Wow.
podcast. And honest, we have another speaker from our Full Funnel Summit, Shlomo Genchin, who had a fantastic keynote a month ago. And we have received during his keynote a lot of questions. So it's kind of a continuation of in his keynote. Shlomo, thanks a lot for joining me.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So, guys, as we promised, we are going to dive deeper into Shlomo's framework, and we actually want to run a live example so you can see this framework in action. And a quick question, let us know if you would be interested in seeing how we can apply Shlomo's framework for creating B2B ads for your company. If you're interested, just drop your website and we'll pick it up later. And while you guys are typing, I think we can kick it off with just briefly reviewing your framework. I remember you mentioned you always start with the research, right? Maybe you can just navigate us through what data points you are collecting, right, to create the ads.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing that I'm most interested in, I guess there are two paths, right? Like there is the technical path where I want to know all the features, I want to actually understand the product and, to every sort of aspect of it. So that's the first part, I would say. And then I have the human part, right? And there I want to learn about different insights. Like most importantly, I want to find different relatable situations and memes, quotes, like anything that would show me about, anything that would give me some ideas about the experience, about how people use the product or about the problem they're having, about how they work in general. And I think this would be the most interesting part to me, because obviously, like understanding the product is important, and these are the features that we'll be promoting. But having those insights and knowing, like kind of getting to know the humans that use the product, this is the most interesting part, and that's where things actually get creative and fun.
Love it. I see already the first submission from Anke, Epic Base. So thank you so much. We'll definitely then start with yours. But let's move forward. So my main question is, how do you turn this research into ads, and how do you come up with the creators, right? This is where the things might be a little bit tricky.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think that in general, like I feel like for years when it comes to creative ads in the creative industry, I feel like people have tried to make, to turn this into something that is even like sort of mystical or something that you can't really explain or something like that. But in reality, it's way simpler than people think, right? Like creativity and creative ads, it's something that you can basically break down, you can reverse engineer it, and you can see that eventually, if you look like at the thousand ads, you will notice that the same techniques and patterns repeat again and again. And here are some of the most basic ones. So I think like either we can show that live on our first example, or I can just explain that. But I think it would be more interesting if we kind of think about it together and brainstorm through it.
Yeah,
If that
absolutely.
works for you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
amazing.
Let's do it.
Cool. So let's start with Epic Base. All right. So I just clicked on the link. I have no idea what it is. If you want, I can share my screen and then we can see that. Or
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that would be the
up to you.
best. Yeah, that
Okay.
would be
Let
the
me see.
best approach.
Amazing. So let me see that it actually works for us. Okay. I feel like yes, amazing. Here it is. Okay, so AI native operating system for food service, right? So already we have a product with some visual potential, right? Because we have food, and food is already interesting and it's something that people want to see. And now let's see what's happening here. So replace spreadsheets and disconnected tools with a single source of truth for multi-site hospitality, right? So basically, there is a more efficient system here, right? I'm just learning it as we go. I've never seen that side before. But basically, instead of like using a bunch of different tools and instead of using spreadsheets, we want to see, we want to have it all on one platform. Cool. So like this is already enough for me. I'm not gonna go through all the features now, but I think like this is already very interesting, right? And I can see that there are different things here as well, like some super simple features like recipe management, right? Menu engineering, inventory management, right? And now that I know what the product does, I sort of want to like I sort of want to think, I want to start with the first technique that I would use, which is world without, right? And that's a technique I also showed at, at, at the conference. And this is a very simple technique where we're trying to think, what is the worst thing that can happen if people don't have the product, right? Because obviously, the most basic thing that would happen is that they would just use spreadsheets, right? It's not a big deal. But for the for the sake of advertising and for the sake of storytelling, we want to exaggerate it and we want to think what can actually go wrong, right? And then we're trying to think like what can go wrong in a recipe, what can go wrong on the menu, what can go wrong if people are not using the product. So let's think together, right? Maybe there would be something, they would put something completely horrible and wrong on the menu. Maybe they would, put something wrong in the food or on the recipe because they mixed the spreadsheets between like two restaurants. I don't know, one is vegan and one is just like a pure barbecue restaurant. So I think like there's a lot of interesting things that can happen here, and this is already a good base for our story, right? Because in any kind of story, we want to have some sort of conflict. We want to have something that is happening, something that is yeah, some sort of clash that is happening. And I think that a mix up in a recipe like that is sort of is a really good starting point. But this is I'm just saying it like based on nothing, because like I don't really know the users and I don't really know their use cases. But like once we can dive into that, and maybe Anke can tell us like in the chat a little bit more about like am I in the right direction? Like would you say that these are things that your users are dealing with if they're not using your product?
Would be good to see,
Let's see.
indeed.
Yeah. Now she has to type very fast. Yes, okay. She's saying yes first of all. And yeah, okay. And I think that's a good starting point. So like what I would do now, I would go either like to a Google Doc or something like that, or like to some sort of Figma file, and I would just start thinking about different things like that that can happen, right? Let's first of all think about this like worst case scenario. Like, what is this thing that can really go wrong? And maybe you could help us with thinking like what would be one of those situations where where something goes completely wrong with a recipe, or where they simply don't have, like, I don't know, a sushi restaurant, they don't manage their inventory, so they don't have any fish or any food. And once we have something like that, then we could maybe start, maybe we can start kind of zooming in and thinking about, and you're saying high costs. Okay, that's also interesting. Let's think of even more like specific situations. Let's think of like, what would happen if they have high costs, right? What can happen if things go wrong?
I
like
think I would
this
just,
is
just
yeah.
wanted to add 5 cents here. I think one of the things here might be bad reviews because of the quality and consistency. Let's say I'm just going to this restaurant in one city. I love the food, I love the atmosphere, right? And then I go to the same restaurant in another city or in another part of the city, and then the food is is tasting completely differently, right? And then I just give them 1 star because like whatever, right? The food was terrible and now my expectations were not met. And so this is the reputational problem, right? So one of the things.
Exactly, I love that. You see, and like the good thing about it is that like this point that Andrei just gave us is very relatable, right? Because it's something that we can all relate to. We all like ate at different food chains, and we could see that actually like the food is very different in each branch sometimes when when they don't have like good quality and when they don't use epic base. So I think that this is already a very good insight. And when I'm writing my insights, I'm always starting them with that moment when, right? Because then I know that it's actually relatable. Because like if you think about it, that's how comedians, when they sort of explain, when they sort of deliver a joke, right? They often start with that moment when, because they kind of set us up for something relatable, for something that we all know. So it's always good to write that way. So for example, that moment when you go to a restaurant that you already know already know, but in a different different city, and it sucks, right? So like that would be like this relatable moment that we're building upon. Okay, so now once we have that, we want to come up with different visuals or situations around that. So we want to, we sort of want to distill that, right? Because when we're making ads, for example, if we're making a static ad, we can't just put this entire story inside of that. We want to like simplify it very much so people can get it the first second. And now we're trying to think like, like we could try to think about, how sometimes there are those like memes with like different with like food, like how it advertised, like how it is being advertised, and then how it is actually in reality. So like food expectations versus reality. I'll just Google that, and I'll just look for an image like that, right? So we can just get here and see how those images look, right? So we have those like weird images that yeah, sometimes it looks great and sometimes it looks awful. So then we could take this, for example, right? Like we could take this picture just as an example, and we could put it in another window, and just like write, something like, like New York City, like branch, for example, and then like I don't know, like LA branch, right? So like we have two cities where in one it looks like this and in one it looks like this, right? And then like keep your like food or like menu, yeah, I guess food consistent across like yeah across the entire chain, right? Like entire food chain. I don't know. I'm just coming up with this on the spot. But this is already wait, and you can't see my figure right now. Sorry. So you can see it right now. So I already put it here, right? And you can see that we already have some start of an ad here. Now I'm just gonna copy the logo, put it right here, and we already have something interesting here, right? So like we already have like the best case scenario, what we have here, and we have the worst case scenario, what happened if you don't use Epic Base. So of course, like we still need to work on the headline, and these things take a lot of time because like I would definitely like maybe go to Claude now, and I would just like probably give Claude this ad as it is, right? You're gonna see this tab in a second. So I'll just put it as it is, and I'll just ask it like, can you generate 10 more variations of this headline? Make sure it's, use like different leader, leader devices. Okay, and then immediately I'm going to get a few more variations for this headline. So of course it's something that we're going to play around with. But like immediately like I don't know. It says like one kitchen creates art, the other creates evidence, or same recipe, same ingredients, very different plate. Your recipes are begging for consistency across every location, right? Sounds a little bit like AI. Or like one branch shouldn't serve French toast. Like what if one branch serves French toast, the other one shouldn't serve disappointment, right? So like different stuff like this that we could play around with to get that headline. So I think from these, my favorite one, yeah, I think my favorite one is probably this one. maybe, I don't know, like this could be a good option. So I can already change it to this one. And yeah, if one branch gets a standing ovation, but the other one, but the other one gets a health inspector, it's time to try epic base, right? So this is, so I would say this is the most like basic and quick version of the ad that we could create. Obviously, we need to work on the layout. Obviously, we need to make it better, but I think like this is already like the process live on how it should work. So yeah, what do you guys think? Does that match a little bit of what you do, or or does that like would that direction work at all? I mean, of course we need to polish that, but overall I think it's already an interesting direction that we don't really use to, we don't really see a lot of that stuff in B2B for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. And I love a lot the creative process over here that you shared. So if I can just quickly look at the use case that Anke shared, that it's all about the problem that they have a system that doesn't match what's on the shelf, and they overorder the ingredients, they lose margin, etc. So like the real, let's say, B2B use case, not the reputational one. How would you think about this one?
Got it. So same thing, right? Like same thing. We can like, I think this one is even easier probably because we just need to think about the situation where we have too much, or where they're ordering too much, inventory, for example, or when they're ordering too much food, and then yeah, just like you said, like over ordering, spoilage, and all of that stuff, right? So this is already like some very interesting visuals that we can go around, and we can, yeah, and immediately like I would just go to Google, and and I would already look, because I think this is such a strong visual hook, right? So spoiled, like I would write like spoiled food. I know a lot of spoiled food, right? And let's see, yeah, let's see what I get, right?
Or
so
in
so
the
then so
restaurant, maybe.
yeah, or in the restaurant, or in the restaurant maybe, but like I feel like this is already an interesting, yeah, sort of an interesting hook. And I think that, like maybe we could show a little before and after, right? Because like side by side is always an interesting way to sort of compare things and show a message very quickly. So maybe we could like show a fridge with a lot of spoiled food, right? So like, I don't know, like I think we need to find the right images for that, but like we need to find an image, yeah, like maybe it's something like this, right? So yeah, so like maybe we could show something like, and I guess this is a pain, like everyone who like ordered too much food like probably has seen like not anything that bad, but but like something similar to that. So like basically, and then we want, clean, empty fridge maybe, and then yeah, we want to show that we want probably, wait, I'm going to show the Figma tab. So now we have this one, and we have this one. We have this comparison. Maybe on the right one we should show a fridge with a lot of nice food. Like maybe that could be another option. But overall, I would write something like, just something simple, like before Epic base and after Epic base, right? So then I already have like those two sides, and then like in the caption, right, I could write something like prevent over, what did you call it? Yeah, like over ordering and spoilage, right? So that's, yeah, so like that's already, sorry, so that's already a good, that's already like some interesting visual that would grab people's attention. Maybe we could just focus on the before, right? Like rather than doing before and after, we could just show the before, we could just show that, and just, like if we make those pictures like super artistic, right? So like right now it looks pretty ugly and disgusting, but like if, for example, we open Gemini real quick, and we kind of take this, And I'm going to Gemini real quick just to kind of work on this image, and I'll ask it like turn this into an artistic still art photography image, make the contrast striking and the colors strong and vivid, right? So like maybe we could turn this into some sort of like art and make it like look a little even like a little bit more striking and interesting. So then so then we could get, so then the visual could be even better. I'll go back while it's generating, I'll go back to Figma just like to work on the headline meanwhile. So I could write just something much simpler, right? Just use a simple question headline like over ordering, right? Something like this. I would make it maybe a little bit smaller, put it in the middle, and
Maybe
then let's see.
something even like your margin spoils the same way as your food.
Exactly. So now we're getting there. Exactly. Yeah. So your margins get spoiled. Like your food, something like this. Like we still need to think about it. Let's
Yeah,
see
of
the image.
course.
Yeah, the image is still generating, so we're going to get that in a second. But I think like immediately we get something that is a little bit more interesting. And of course, like it's always easier to create ads on the negative side. So yeah, so like on the positive side, we could also try to create something like with beautiful, like with just like beautiful food photography or something that's in the fridge. Okay, so let's see. This is the image that I got from Gemini. I think it's not perfect. I think like it's not what we want there, but I think like it's already a little bit more artistic. And we can already like paste it right here instead of the previous one. Just a second. Let's go here. And okay. Okay, yeah. And already I think it looks a little bit more interesting, like a little bit more colorful and something that would grab your attention and just like not something that you would expect to see in an ad. So of course, like I'm not saying that like this would 100% work or like this is the perfect strategy or this is aligned with the brand guidelines. But like when we're talking creative, that's the kind of stuff, like that's the kind of process we want to go through, right? And just like and you saw how it also works together as a team, right? Because I came up with this one, Andrei added this headline, and then little by little, we want to fill the canvas with like dozens of those different ideas. And then of course, like most of them would go to waste, just like this food. But some of them, like let's say 5 to 10, would be actually good. So like if we sit like that for like an hour or two, then after a while, after like trying all those different directions, maybe we're gonna try the spoiled food, maybe we're gonna try the beautiful fridge. Like there's so many options. We're gonna get something that looks that is actually creative and aligned with our strategy, and and potentially would actually work. I see that Ola just asked a question about copyright
Copyright.
issues with such. Yeah, so like honestly, it really depends on you and how you want to approach it. If you want, you can first buy the image, the stock image, or find a free stock image. But you could just generate that from scratch in Gemini, or you could just take an image and just change it so much that it would be different. It really depends, I guess, on how you want to approach that. Like some people are more sensitive to that. Some people just take stock photos and just change them. So I think like it's really up to you. I always try to support creators of images, and when I work with clients and I'm using a stock photo, even if I change it later with AI, I tend to buy it. But it really depends. I mean, if I find just a random photo in like Pinterest or something, then I would change it so much that it just won't be recognizable anymore. And then that's the world we're living in right now. I think it's a big question about copyright and AI and how it works, but I think like like I don't have a really good answer to that.
I love it. I see a question from Chris. Would this sort of image and messages also work in B2B advertising? I think, honestly, we took Epic Base and this is the B2B product. Maybe it wasn't that clear, but they are selling to restaurants. So it's the pure B2B SaaS. I would maybe just add 5 cents to this question. What I have heard from a few people, and you can share your thoughts, Shlomo. I will be just citing one of the concerns that I have heard. So here is the first one. Our buyers are conservative. The procurement committee includes CFOs who haven't changed their system in a decade. If I run a fun ad, or let's say creative ad, to these people, I risk looking like I don't understand their world. So where is the line between creative that captures the attention and creative that loses credibility with enterprise buyer? So
Yeah,
that's the first part.
yeah, yeah. And the second,
And the second,
and yeah.
The second is as a follow-up, right? How do you get an internal buy-in for, let's say, this creative, especially when your leadership and sales team, if they have strong opinions about what should professional creative, how should professional creative look like, right?
Yeah.
So that's the second part.
Yeah. Okay. So I think these are great questions, and I would say that for the first part, first of all, yeah, like that's I think that's why we're having this conversation, because obviously in B2C nobody's doubting that ads should be creative, right? And it wasn't like that always. Before the 1950s, ads were boring in B2C as well. If you look at some old ads, you'll see that it's all pretty much like what we have in B2B right now, right? Because people thought, like if somebody's buying a car, that's a very serious purchase, right? You don't want to make fun of that. You want to show the engine. You want to, run a very serious ad. You don't want to do something like too crazy because they're buying a car. But then came a very interesting person called Bill Berenbach, and he changed that, and he decided that he's going to start running creative ads for Volkswagen. And if you know those like classic ads, like Lemon and Think Small, and all of those like old vintage ads, you can look them up. So these things actually changed advertising because people suddenly started loving that, right? They thought like maybe we shouldn't just talk about just about the features all the time. Maybe we can highlight the features, but also use interesting visual hooks, tell interesting stories, and also have some fun. But essentially B2B is the same. If somebody can make a fun ad when they're selling, $100,000 car, then you can also make fun when you're selling expensive software. The biggest trick here is that you have to actually understand their world, right? Like if you're just joking, if you're just clowning around, then of course they're not going to take you seriously. But if you show them that you actually know your audience so well that that you actually can make ads that are not just attention grabbing, not just creative for no reason, but actually relatable to them, something that they actually a pain point that they actually know, then they would actually appreciate that even more. And that's what I do for a living. That's the only thing I'm doing. I can show you send you later different examples of ads that I'm doing. That's also what I showed at the conference. And each time we see that we get better results, more leads, better conversions when we're doing something that is interesting. Of course, you always have to play around with you don't want to be offensive. You don't want to, you want to find a way that is actually both fun for you and for them. You don't want it just to be a joke for you and then for them, nothing. But if it's actually relatable and interesting, because if you think about it, when they sit on the toilet, they also scroll memes, they also watch TikTok, they do the same things that all the people do, even if, they're a VP something at a company. So even then, it doesn't matter. You still want to make it fun and creative, but obviously really depends on the audience and really requires even more research than a usual ad would.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was just thinking about some of our ABM campaigns, and even for just targeting a list of accounts. Time to time, we were using, for example, the role in a similar way to yours, where we were just explaining to manufacturers, to European manufacturers that are located outside of Eurozone, and who are exporting a lot, right? How the currency fluctuations are killing their margins, and that was a kind of image of roller coaster. And we used this for 3 months, and then for every engaged account received direct mail parcel where we also bought a Lego roller coaster, explaining the same story, right? That you shouldn't be your margin shouldn't be rallying on roller coaster every single day. And I mean, that was I can't say that literally everybody replied to us, but those who replied, they had a lot of fun, and they were smiling. They remembered this during the discovery calls, etc. So can't say that the conservative audience doesn't like, let's say, the creativity here. So I think we can look at the second example from Olha. Olha shared another company. If you can find it in the chat, airbus.com. Or if you want, I can just publish.
I see that. I see that. Amazing. So
yeah, this
amazing. So I'm sharing the screen. You're gonna see that in a second. Okay, cool. So expert development, expert delivery, and your tech powerhouse. So let's understand what else is happening here, because I still don't completely know what they do. So Fortune 500 companies trust us to support existing technical solution and develop new ones to optimize costs at every stage. So basically, I will also look at this expert delivery, your tech powerhouse. So I'd love to understand a little bit better. So that's a service business, right? Okay, service business. And they do just different software engineering stuff, right?
Correct.
Okay, amazing. So just different software engineering. Yeah, software engineering as a service. Okay, so now it's clear. We can see the different industries. Okay, and so this is already an interesting sort of thing that's happening here. So basically, I would say that I think that this time we can just start with the promise, right? What would be the main thing their Airbus are promising to their customers? I guess that unlike anything else, they're promising that they would have personalized or maybe bespoke software engineering, right? Services, right? So you actually match them to the client, right? You're not just you're not just handing them software that they can use and just onboard themselves. You're actually making something that would fit them perfectly. So that's okay. So I think that's already a good sort of beginning to start with this promise, right? So rather than starting with insights and just thinking about different situations, we first of all just want to understand what is our promise, what do we want to advertise here. Ola, would you say that that's on point? Would you say that this is something that you actually promise to customers? I make it a little bit clearer like this. What do you think? Wait, I'm going to write in the chat as well. Okay, so I don't see an answer from Ola for now, but I'll take that. I'll take that for now as a yes. Okay, so let's think what is yes, amazing. Thank you, Ola. Yeah, I didn't leave you a choice. But let's think about So now that we have this simple promise, let's think what's the opposite of this promise. If this is the promise, then what is the problem, right? So the problem is that I guess that companies get software that doesn't fit their needs. Okay, so here we have quite a different situation, right? And this is something that happens in B2B and software a lot, because If like in the previous case, right, it was much easier to work with visuals because we had this whole like food universe that we could work with. So no matter how much we would, go around it, eventually we would find something, some sort of image or visual that would work for us because it's for restaurants. So that's in a way simpler. But here we can't really show like what does it matter, like what can we show, like how can we show personalized engineering services, right? Like even if we look on the website that we have like a lot of simple visuals like this, or like stuff that we would usually see from software companies, because we can't actually show the software that easily, and that's a problem we're all facing in B2B. So what's the solution? And this is something that I really like to do, and this is called analogy ads, right? So the solution is to find an analogy to that situation, right? To find something that is quite similar to that from another like universe or space, and use that as our visual hook. So for example, let's think what else, like what else mm, like somebody like may need that that doesn't fit their exact needs, right? Where they need something to be personalized or bespoke, and they get something that is just one size for everyone. Like I can immediately think of clothes, right? So like I would go to Google and I would write something like bet fitting clothes, right? Like okay, and then immediately I already get like this interesting visual universe. So yeah, so like immediately I can get something like this, right? I think this is already an interesting visual. Of course, like we can make it even better, but I think this is already a good start. So I go back here and I'll make a new frame. I'll paste this image right here. Okay, I guess I would also like fill this background with something else just for now. Like later, of course, we need to make it look more beautiful. But for now, we can have it just like this. And we could write something like, okay, and then we can write something like, if like, I don't know, your if your software is not the right fit for you, call Airbus, right? So this is like the first most basic version of our messaging, right? So we have the image, but the line is not very good, right? The line is kind of boring. It's like very straightforward. So I want to make it a little bit more interesting. And now what I would do here is I would use a copywriting technique that I called flipped phrases. So flipped phrases is when I take a familiar idiom or phrase and I flip it, and I just like I take it as it is, but I change just one word. So the phrase kind of seems familiar, but then you get a twist. So let me show you how it works. So for example, we could take a phrase like one size fits all, right? This is the original phrase. And then we could change it to one size doesn't fit all, right? Try our personalized software dev services, right? So this could already be something like we probably want to make this one bigger so people can see that right away, and then make this one a little bit smaller. Of course, we need to play around with the art direction here to make it all work out. But overall, this is already much better, right? So we went from this to this to this, then this, and finally we have this. This is our very like basic digital sketch that we have, but already we have an image, we have a headline, and now we just need to work with a real designer or spend a little bit more time with AI to kind of put this all together into a nice layout. But you can see how quickly, when you use analogies, how quickly you can get a new visual idea for something that is seemingly like it's very hard to show something like software services. So that's why like finding an analogy like that makes it way easier to come up with something that would actually grab attract people's attention. So this is so this is just one example, but there are plenty of other analogies that we could use for that as well.
Love it. Thank you so much. And I see some nice feedback in the chat already. So it's indeed, it's just a simple framework, right? Obviously, this is not the precise copy that we are going to use, but this is the logic behind how you can think about. And obviously, you can dive deeper into use cases or jobs to be done of specific buyer persona, and then just depending on your, let's say, targeting and campaign that you are running, right, you can adjust that messaging and visuals or creatives to this. But this is the kind of the mental model how to think about that creation. So thank you so
Exactly.
much, Shlomo. We have a couple of
Yeah, thank
questions,
you.
so I will just copy them to the chat and we can cover them. So the first one from Amy: how can you use fun ads on Google where you don't have full control over which headline and description serves with the creative, and tier of ads get penalized for not having enough variety? So that's the first one.
Yeah. So I think for Google Ads, and that's actually something that is super interesting for me personally right now, because that is something I'm working on right now, because I think that like Google Ads are very copywriting driven, right? Like there's so like it's all about copywriting, and a lot of people say that copywriting is dead and that AI can just do it better than anyone now. But I think that there is a lot of like you can see a lot of brands that are doing super cool things with copywriting right now, and Google Ads is one of them. Like there are so many things we can try. So I think that the first thing we need to remember is that just like we did with visuals, right? Just like we did right now with analogies, for example, we could do the same thing with just copy, right? We don't necessarily just need the visual. We could just use analogies when we write copy. We could just use this phrase like flipped phrase, like one size doesn't fit all. We could use that as part of a Google ad. So there are a lot of options here, and if you think about it, there are so many different things that you can say. So when it comes to copywriting, you can use analogies, you can use right, like you can make things rhyme, you can use alliteration, right? When you start the same like when you say start every word with the same sound, right? So for example, if we take I don't know, like Proton email, right? So you can write something like Swiss, Swift, and safe, right? Something like that. So immediately the headline becomes way more interesting. So we could take a lot of different things like that and make them work if we just use different copywriting techniques. And a few examples that I could give for different copywriting techniques is one, flipped phrases, the one that I already showed you. I think I could take you a little bit, just like because we're doing it more of a like session where we're hanging out and not like a proper presentation. So like I could take you a little bit behind the scenes into a new tool that I'm building right now for copywriting. So I'm not going to show you the tool itself, but I'm going to show you like my Figma library with different ads that I'm working, that I'm collecting, like sort of my like all my categories and my swipe file with a lot of ads. So you can see that there are a lot of different techniques that you can use. So, for example, even if we're just going for this idea of like different point of view, right? So here's one really good headline from Columbia, right? This jacket is a climate denier, right? Or you could check out this one from Corona, right? So some cans have all the fun. So basically, we're giving human traits to our product or its enemy, right? Or we could look at different, we could find different observations, like nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, or they don't write songs about Volvos. So basically, copywriting is a whole new universe that you can explore when you're doing Google Ads, and definitely like we could do another talk just about that. I can share this overview of all of these ads because this is for a new product that I'm building. But once it's going to be ready, then I'll happily share that like on my LinkedIn or wherever or if you want to check out my newsletter, then you can also like sign up sign up there. So like I can happily share that as well once it's ready. Right now, it's just still or work in progress. I didn't even plan to share it today, but you guys asked about Google Ads, so like I think this was a good opportunity to kind of show you what I'm working on, because I think this is a huge opportunity right now doing some creative copy. But yeah, like I think I'm gonna stop here because like I'm not actually giving you actionable tips without real examples. Yeah.
I love it. I also remember just one of the things that you shared is the kind of making fun of the trends or the hype that we're observing right now. It just immediately reminded me about the campaign that Fiverr ran. AI just took my job, and then just a small copy to the next level, right? So all because we're hearing from every single corner that AI is just taking all of our jobs. So this is kind of another story, right? How to I think just picking up something that is overhyped today and just play on it. It's another way to kind of use attention grabbers. One follow-up question from Elena: should ABM creatives look differently from regular B2B ads?
Yeah, and definitely gonna answer that in 1 second. But just like before we move on, just the technique that you just mentioned, where we twist, something that we kind of know from pop culture or from culture in general. So like could work the same way for Airbus as well, right? So like we could write something, and I'm writing in the comments now, like software engineering is dead, right? But it's not just dead; it's
Yeah,
like dead. Right, like so just another option. That this is a line I wrote for another company, but like this is a quick example of how something that we used to hearing all the time, right? Software engineering is dead or something like that. So it's dead simple, right? So we take some phrase just like you described, Andre, and we add a little twist to it to make it more interesting. So just
I
another
love it.
copywriting technique that is optional. Let's move on, to the second question. So should ABM creatives look differently from regular B2B ads? So I think ABM ads in general, it's one of the coolest opportunities we have in B2B, because we have accounts that have so much money, right? Like Nike can't really do that, right? Because it's not worth it to target just one person or just one company when your product costs like $100 or less. But when it costs $200,000, then it's worth it. And this is one of the coolest opportunities that we have. So I think they shouldn't look in general like different from regular B2B ads, right? We still want to have the same sorts of ad sets. We still want to have like testimonial ads, like more creative and edgy ads, like highlighting different features, showing the product. Like we still want to have very rich and diverse ad sets, but at the same time, we want to make them even more personalized. So we want to make sure that it actually solves their problems, their use cases. And the more budget and the more time we have to spend on those accounts, the more interesting we can make it. Because think about it, if in the beginning we started with the simple thing of just coming up with ideas and insights for different industries and for different job titles, then think how specific your ads could be and your insights can be, and how relatable it can be if you think of one person or just like one company or one team at one company. So things can get way more interesting, because you can actually I don't know, if they're based in a specific city, you can make the visuals based on that, or the references or the headlines. So there are a lot of options here, but I think that they shouldn't look different in general, but you have way more opportunity to be creative here.
Love it. Actually, it just reminded me about one of the funny ABM campaigns where we used advertisement a couple of years ago. What we have done, I'll just quickly show my screen. And obviously, I totally understand that not every company is going to do this, but we were targeting a big tech enterprise company. So we wanted to book a meeting with one of the strategic stakeholders, because we had some engagement with, let's say, potential champions and potential power users. But the sales team was trying to get to this one of the strategic stakeholders who was exactly CTO at that company, and so we created one of like similar banners, not exactly like this one, but it was most wanted, and just the most amazing. Like I forgot the exact copy, but it was something like, if you guys are meeting with him, please make an intro to us, right? And then just the logo of that company and our company. So I mean, it's not always the case, and obviously not in every single case you can use it, but in that case it worked amazingly. So just sometimes a bit of creativity could be adding a lot of value. Obviously you need to know when to apply it. So,
exactly, yeah, and that's something we can only do in B2B. So I think that's a big advantage for us.
Yeah, so for me, whenever I'm hearing that in our space creativity doesn't work or whatever, I just think that it's often an argument or maybe an expression of a concern to be different, right? So we're afraid to be different because nobody is doing this, and so what people would say, what our competitors would say, what our buyers would say, but the truth is that if we're not standing out, then we are losing our brand reputation in the long term, right? Because otherwise we just become yet another vendor. So that's kind of the moral of the story. So we have a few more questions from our communities, and guys, feel free to post questions in the chat. Yes, the recording will be available, so we usually publish it on our YouTube channel and Spotify. So I dropped the link to Spotify in the chat. You can subscribe, and would appreciate a lot if you can rate us there. We have a question from Mariam. What are the most common mistakes when brands try to be fun in B2B?
Well, I think that the most common mistakes are trying to be funny but not being funny, right? So I think that's the biggest problem, because funny is not something like that you can definitely that you can necessarily teach. Like you can try different techniques, but I feel like it's also something that you need to have a feel for. But essentially, I think that if we manage to be relatable, if you manage to actually touch a real pain point, then it would always be in one way or another, like at least a little bit fun. And then I think it's just important to sort of lean into what we do well, right? Like we shouldn't try, like the biggest mistake I think is to try to do something that others are doing necessarily. Because if one company is very good at funny skits and another company is very good at doing like fun billboards with copy, then I think we should just see, what are the resources that we have? Who do we have on the team? And what are they good at? Like if we have someone who's a great actor, maybe we could shoot some videos, or if we know someone who's working with great actors, like depends on the size of the company, of course. If you have more budget, then you can also outsource that kind of stuff. But if we know that we have a bunch of great copywriters, then we should focus on doing that. If we know that our humor is usually like more intelligent and sort of subtle, let's do that, and not try to be like just too crazy. So I think it's very important, just like in real life, when we have a brand, try to focus on the things that the brand is actually good at. And I see that Ola is also asking, where is the line between good humor and not so good? So I think this is the exact reason why AI can't replace us yet, right? Because if there would be something that we could actually like measure very easily, then I think AI would just be able to do that way better than us. But that's sort of the human connection and perspective that we have. So like we know our target audience, we speak to them, we hang out with them, and then we just know what would make them laugh or what would even make them smile in a real conversation. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to run in our ads, because eventually advertising is just a conversation, just on a large scale, because we can't speak to each person individually. So whatever would work in a real conversation, whatever you wouldn't write or say in a real conversation over lunch, we shouldn't use in our ads. So I think like this should be like sort of the guiding, I guess like the main guideline here. But then other than that, it's a matter of feeling. It's a matter of testing different things carefully and seeing what works best.
I also figured out one maybe way how can you identify what humor will resonate. And basically, whenever you have client meetings, right? Obviously, I'm not talking about the discovery call. Or maybe sometimes it happens on the discovery calls as well, if you know the prospect, right? But quite often when you are working with a client for some time, you have some level of relationship. So you don't just have a formal conversation with them. You can see the jokes they're making, or maybe the jokes that they're making internally, right? Not necessarily addressed to you or when you are in the room. So quite often you can see the things that they are talking about that basically resonate with them, and that could be an idea what kind of level of humor, if I can call it that way, right, is acceptable at this company. So that could be another idea. So let's pick up the last question from Ralph, the first part. So what B2B ads are currently performing best and why for consulting services, for example?
Yeah, I don't like I don't think I'll be able to answer that question specifically because it's not like I don't really like to look at ads as like, side by side ads are performing best or like red colored ads are performing best. I think like the ads that are performing best, just like Andrei said, it's ads that resonate with the way our users actually speak. And I think that another way to kind of dive into the humor of our target audience is also something that I always do when I start researching. I always write, my industry and memes. So if I'm working on an HR software, I would write HR memes. If I'm working on software engineering product, I would write, software engineering memes. And I would kind of dive into this universe of their memes, either on Google or TikTok or anywhere else. And I would see what kind of memes they're making for themselves when it's not even about marketing. And I would see what kind of humor is working, and maybe I could borrow something from there and use that to create an ad. So this is usually the approach that I take there. And I think that in terms of what ads are working best, I would say that for every industry is different, but I think that if there is one thing that unifies everything that's working, at least for me and my clients right now, is stuff that you can see that there is actual effort behind it, right? Because AI made it so easy to generate a bunch of slop. Then that when we do something that you can actually see that it's either like well produced or a headline that we actually thought of or a visual that is actually interesting. And by the way, when I say fun, it doesn't mean funny. It doesn't mean like comedy, hilarious. It's just like something that is like slightly entertaining, something that is slightly like unusual. Like that's it. So I think like stuff that you can actually see that there is craft behind it and there is thought and there is who created it, like the person created it actually cared about it. I think that's the kind of thing that works best. I know like that's not the perfect like analytical answer of like the specific formats and so on, but that's the reality, right? Because there's so many formats. There's video, there's static ads, and from what I've seen, when we have one message that works, it would work across all formats, no matter what. So it's not like video ads work better than static ads. No, it's like if you have one message that works, it would work in both of those formats and as a GIF as well, and anything else as a Google ad or whatever. So yeah, I hope that helps.
It was brilliant. Thank you so much. I also dropped a link to Shlomo's profile. He earlier shared it in the chat, a link to his company onboard.com. If you are not connected yet, feel free to send a connection request because he posts really great examples on LinkedIn. The link is in the chat, and also next week we'll host our mini webinar / new episode of Full Funnel Live, sharing the updated Full Funnel framework that we use to show marketing impact and revenue in 90 days, the most popular B2B marketing challenge that we have been solving or trying to find the best possible solution in the last 3 years. So with that being said, Shlomo, thank you so much for joining and for sharing the technique live. I think it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and looking at the chat, it seems that everybody loved it. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and yeah, see you soon. Bye bye.
See you. Have a great day and see you guys next week. Ciao.
Thank you guys.